We are creating a stool in onshape. The first thing we'll do is start a new document, name it stool, and my name, so that if Mr. Bugsky searches for it, he can find it. Obviously, we'll always begin with a sketch. I'm going to do it on the top plane because I feel like it. I'll look at the top plane. Now's the point where we need some dimensions, and we're going to have to switch over to look at our sketch to figure out exactly how we're going to make it. So maybe I'll start with this top piece, which is a 12-inch circle, and I'll later cut some 8-inch long slots into it to fit the stool legs. I could also have started with the stool legs, it doesn't really matter. I'll put a dimension in there. It's too big for my screen, so I have to zoom back in, or I can just click this and it will automatically zoom it. And that's my first sketch. You know what? I'm going to put my little cross-hatching in that sketch. So I'm making this 3/4 of an inch wide, and I'm making it 8 inches long. I want to center it on here. So I might be able to do that with a constraint. But maybe not. So I'm going to do it with a dimension, because that's just as easy. So that is half of 0.75. So I could actually do 0.75 over 2. Or I could go with 0.75. And then I could dimension from here to here. Half of 8 is 4. Another one of those. Going this way. I could have also used the linear pattern here, or sorry, circular pattern here, but I didn't, so no biggie. I don't think it would have been much faster with just 2 instances of the item. Alright, and now that sketch is finished. I'm going to extrude everything. To a distance of 0.75, because that's my wood. And now I have the top of my stool. Now in order to cut that out, I'm going to actually make sketch 1 visible so I can see it again. And then I can use it again to extrude all of these pieces. Looks like it's going the wrong direction, so I'll change the direction. Oh no, wait, that is the right direction because I want to be on remove. And I'm only going to do 0.5 all the way through. So that looks about right. That's what I want. Alright, so there's my cut. And the top of my stool is complete. Next step is going to be to build the legs. There's a couple different ways I could do that. I could build them in place, or I could build them separately. I'm going to build them separately. So I'm going to start a new sketch on, let me flip this over, put it on the top. So I've got a new sketch in the top plane, and I will drag this over so that I have a little space and zoom out. Again, it doesn't actually matter exactly where I put this because I'm going to assemble it later on. Now looking back at my sketch, it's going to be 18 inches tall and it's going to be 12 inches wide. And there's a little slot at the top, 1/2 inch tall, 8 inches wide. I haven't put any dimensions on the internal shape, so I get to make those up as I go. Probably the easiest thing is going to be to start with a rectangle, which is going to be 12 inches wide and it's going to be 18 inches tall. I need to zoom out to see that. And now from this, I'm going to make all of the parts that I need to make. So I'm going to make a little slot that fits in the top. And the dimensions of that are, so you can see it, I'll zoom out, 8 inches by 1/2 inch. I have to make sure that that is centered on the 8 by 12, so I'm going to use a dimension tool here. Go from there to there. And that should be 2 inches. I want to check it, I put the dimension over here. Now that will come in right out because it's a different dimension. And you can't change anything, but it can tell me that the twos are equal. So that works. Now I also want a straight line. I don't know how long I want it. I didn't really say in my thing, but maybe 1 inch long. And then I'll come down to this corner right here. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just say that, you go straight out, it kind of snaps to that. You got 1 inch. And then bring it down and snap it to here. Very good. That's the overall exterior shape. I still need to make the interior shape. Alright, so making the interior, I'm going to start at the bottom, come up, and we'll kind of snap to going perfectly across. Right there is snapping to perpendicular to the leg, but I don't want that. I want it straight across, maybe to there, and then bring it down to here. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect here because we're going to later use some dimensions. And I can escape the line. Now, use the dimension tool, make this guy 4 inches, make this 2 inches, make this 2 inches, and dimension this last piece here to be 10 seems tall for the legs, like it's going to be wobbly, maybe 8. That looks kind of crappy. So I'm going to bring it up. Maybe 10 is the right number. Yeah, that'll be okay. I don't want it to look too chunky, but I don't want it to be too wiggly. All right. Now I have to figure out how to make this, clean this up. Use the trim tool, and I'll zoom in. Don't need that line. Don't need this line. Don't need this line. Don't need that line. And I don't need that line. And I don't need that line. All right. Now this is one of the legs. Just because I can, I'll accept this sketch and I'll extrude it. Same thickness of wood, which I chose at the beginning, to be 3/4 inch wood. And there we go. There's one of the legs. It's going to slot in there. However, I need another leg. So, in order to make my other leg, I'm going to go back into the sketch 2. I'm going to copy this whole thing to make another one. All right, again, copying this whole thing. It's all selected. I press Control C, I press Control V, and it pops it in. And in addition to these little arrows that I can use, I could drag it around. I could also use this thing to rotate it, but I don't actually want to do that. And I'm going to left click to accept it. Now I've got two legs, but one of them needs a slot at the top, and one needs a slot at the bottom. Otherwise, they won't fit in with each other. So I'm going to use my rectangle tool here to make a slot at the top. It's 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's 4 inches deep. And I want to make sure to dimension that to be exactly in the center. So it is the distance between there. And the number I want is actually going to be 8 inches minus 0.75 divided by 2. So 8 inches minus 0.75 is 7.25. I'm going to go divided by 2, and it gives me exactly where the middle is, 3.625. Now, I'm going to make the same thing over here, but opposite so that these can slot together. So the rectangle tool here, and it's going to be 0.75 by 4. And the last thing is to put that dimension in from here. Oop, not a square, a dimension from here to here. And just like over there, just 3.625, 675, 625. There we go. Fits in there perfectly. I'm going to use my trim tool again to trim out this little piece here that I don't need. And why don't you trim out that little piece? So trim. There we go. I had two on top of each other. That's probably why. So again, I'm going to trim out that. It's going to require 2 clicks to trim both. And there we go. Now I accept the sketch. Where'd it go? Well, it's part of sketch 2. There it is. But in order to make it part of extrude 3, I'll double click on extrude 3, add that to the extrusion, and there we go. We have 1, 2, 3 parts. They're all going to fit together perfectly. I'm sure of it. Not sure, but maybe they will. All right, so this next step is to assemble them all together. So I will put in first, I will insert the top, and then I'll insert one leg, and then I'll insert another leg. Now I'm going to zoom out. I'm all good with that. Oops. I didn't choose to accept it. I chose to cancel it. Don't want to do that. Let's try that again. Choose to accept it. Zoom out to where I see everything. All right, so I need to see the bottom here because these are going to slot in there. I'm going to use the fasten constraint. This part is kind of hard. I'm going to fasten this corner here, right there. So I have to first mouse over that, so that blue line is pointing upward. So it's pointing away. And that's going to slot into this right here. So I'm going to have to zoom into where I can get this. Let's see. I want it right in that corner right there. So mouse over till that blue line is pointing up. I'm going to stick those two together. Well, they didn't stick together exactly correctly, but I can fix that just by playing around with these things. All right, now it's on the correct side. And now it is rotated to fit. Perfect. Look at that. Fits right together like I knew what I was doing. Now the next one, I'm going to do the same way. So I'm going to fit this corner into that corner. So fasten constraint, mouse over it so that I'm looking at that face. The blue line goes away from the face that I want to stick together. So the two blue lines are essentially going to face toward each other in this situation. I'll zoom in here. It's going to stick to this face here. Blue line goes up. All right, same problem. It's on the wrong side and in the wrong orientation. So I'm going to flip it around. Oh man, it's like already perfect. That's amazing. All right, here we go. There's my stool all locked together. Now the stool in the picture actually had a design on the top, and I can put a design in an onshape if I want to draw it by hand. But there's actually a way in VCarve to trace an image, so I'm probably just going to wait until I get into VCarve and trace the image there.